Kelly Vaughn, and welcome to Inside Indy. Did you know that 5% of all people have a thought about suicide? Well, a lot of us think it, but there are those, as you can see on the screen, who ended their lives in that manner, many of them celebrities, who have brought attention to this issue of suicide. And so we're going to talk about the issue, why this happens, why someone would do it, and there is help. And here to help us in the studio today is Amy Smith.
Hi.
Hi, Amy. Amy is a volunteer crisis intervention specialist with Families First Crisis and Suicide Hotline. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us here. Appreciate that.
You know, that was hard to get into, even how do you introduce such a topic, and wanting to make sure that I said things in the right way, because you brought up something when we were off the air about we don't say, or should not say, it's not the best way to say, that someone commits suicide. Why is that?
So many times the word commit is used with a sense of a robbery. They committed a robbery, they committed a burglary, a rape, committed murder. And we don't want that negative stigma around suicide. Somebody who has thoughts of suicide or acts on suicide at that point is simply extremely vulnerable and may not be able to deal with the situation. So we want to make it that people are willing to talk about suicide and not feel guilty for openly admitting they've had thoughts of it or start a plan. And hopefully we can help intervene and keep them safe.
Okay. We started off the show with celebrities who have passed away as a result of killing themselves. Robin Williams, also another one that comes to mind, Anthony Bourdain, and there have been others. And of course, when we hear these stories, we're just in shock. And the first reaction people have is, well, you have all that money, you know, you have all that fame, and see it, you know, that doesn't make you happy. So they somehow attribute what happened to them to, you know, I don't know, being not happy enough or not being satisfied enough. But what do you think when you see stories like that break with celebrities? And not that everybody's important, but obviously they do bring attention to the issue.
They do bring attention to the issue, and so many times, many of them may have been fighting feelings of depression, may have been fighting thoughts of suicide for years, feeling like they can't be honest about it. And, you know, just like all the rest of our body, our mind produces lots of chemicals, and sometimes they get out of balance. And sometimes we become overwhelmed with life. And unless we're willing to be honest about how we're feeling, it's hard for a doctor to know what's really going on inside of us mentally. And so sometimes they haven't been open with their family or their own members of how they've been feeling. And one of the things that's been an outcome of some of those deaths is we often get a spike in calls to crisis suicide hotlines of individuals saying, I've felt that way so many times and I'm scared and want help now. And so we hope there is a positive out of those, but it's a recognition. It's not that a person is weak. There is just something going on that they need some help at that moment.
Is it always as a result of some kind of chemical imbalance? I guess we should get into the causes of what leads up to suicide.
There's many factors. It may be that there's a chemical imbalance causing severe depression. It may be simply feeling like life is overwhelming. For some, it's a feeling that too many things have happened that they don't feel like they have any reasons to live for. And sometimes in talking to somebody objectively, as we listen and hear their story, we can help them identify what has meaning in life for them now, what is of value for them to go forward, to keep them safe.
Now, I have seen stories, and I don't know where, on television somewhere, where people who have attempted suicide and were not successful, it changed them. Have you heard that? Where there was a guy who jumped off a bridge and he survived, and he was, I don't know what happened. It changed his attitude, it changed his outlook, he had a sense of gratitude.
For some individuals, there is a realization that happens that life has a lot more meaning than they realized. And many people who are thinking of suicide are saying, I don't really want to die. I just want to escape the pain I'm in, whether that's an emotional pain, whether it's overwhelming life circumstances. And so if we can help them find a way through that so that they don't feel as isolated. But there is a sense for some survivors of an attempt who it does transform their life, where they realize they have more to live for. They're more open to getting help as needed, whether it be through counseling, through seeing a psychiatrist and medication, trying to understand what's going on to help keep them healthy and safe. For other individuals who have attempted suicide, they may still be at a high risk of a future attempt. And so it's important to get them help as well, to help understand how we can improve their safety, their health, and mental health and well-being.
Okay. Let's talk about your work as a crisis intervention specialist, and your volunteer work. So tell us what you do, and is that something you do on a daily basis, and how prevalent is that those calls for help for suicide?
So as a volunteer on the crisis line, all the calls are routed to us wherever we are. So we're not actually working at a call center once you've completed training. And during a typical shift, individuals volunteer for 4-hour shifts. You may get several calls. Calls may last anywhere from 5 minutes to half hour to even an hour sometimes, depending upon the situation. And what we do is want to listen non-judgmentally and hear the person's story, listen to what's going on in their life, the pain, and help them to identify what matters. What options do they feel they have? What do they feel will most help them right now? If the person is actively suiciding, maybe they have taken medication before calling the crisis line. They're still looking for a way to stay alive, or else they wouldn't have called the crisis line. So sometimes we do have to get medical intervention to them, but a lot of times as people talk through objectively and have somebody just listen to them and reaffirm what we're hearing, they're able to identify what they need to do to stay safe and to get help.
Wow. You just brought something to mind. Several years ago, I was interviewing, I don't know if you know him, Kimball Richardson, who he used to work for the St. Vincent Stress Center. Now he's with Community Hospital, their network. And we were actually in the middle of a radio interview, and he got the call. And of course, we didn't record anything, but we had to stop what we were doing because he was called to intervene. So I can totally relate to what you're saying there. So now, in case somebody's watching now, you're going through some thoughts of suicide, or you've been contemplating it, or you think you need help, or you're not sure. Let's put the information out there, because you never know. God may have put them right there in front of the television while we're having this conversation. So tell people how they can get help, how they can get in touch with you.
First of all, to call the crisis line, there is a toll-free number, as well as the local number in Indiana is 317-251-7575. And there's also a texting service. You can also go online, and the links are there at familiesfirstindiana.org. But when you contact us, somebody's simply going to be there to listen. We'll collect a little bit of demographic information, but then we're just going to listen to you talk about what's going on. And somebody is available 24/7.
Okay, 24/7. Wow, that's good to know. Well, we're going to take a break, and then when we come back, we'll finish our discussion on the crisis hotline and how people can get help, and just getting them back onto the road of recovery. Okay, when we come back. And we're back here on Inside Indy, and we're talking about helping those who are considering suicide. And here to help us is Amy Smith. She's a volunteer crisis intervention specialist for Families First Crisis and Suicide Hotline. Well, it's a scary thing, and especially for those of us who perhaps see someone going through a crisis. So how do we know for sure when we see someone we're not sure what we're seeing and we're not sure what to do?
Well, first of all, foremost, be there with the person. Ask them how they're feeling and not be afraid and overreact to what they tell us. If we're concerned about suicide, one of the hardest questions to ask, but it's very helpful, is to say, I'm concerned about you. Are you having thoughts of ending your life? Or are you having thoughts of suicide? Asking that question breaks down the barriers that they know they can trust you and that they can talk to you about anything. And now then, you can probe more. What are they feeling? Have they had a plan? What have they tried to do to ease the pain? And based on that information, we can help either suggest referrals, or if they need immediate assistance, there are several wonderful resources through the hospitals. Going to an emergency room to be able to talk with a professional counselor and get immediate evaluation is critical. So we want to, once we assess the situation, talk with them openly, let them know, here's what I'm seeing. You know, you've dropped out of doing things, or you seem like you don't care. How are you feeling? And if they're talking about being depressed or highly anxious or just shrugging you off, don't be afraid to ask the question about suicide and let them know that you really are there for them.
Okay. Are there any signs that would tell us that this person is serious, or should we respond to something that seems relatively innocent, or we think, well, they're probably not thinking that? How do we know?
I think the hardest part is taking that risk to ask. If you've noticed a change, if you've noticed a change in behavior, if you've noticed it suddenly, let's say it's a son or daughter who's suddenly cutting classes or not participating in activities, or a spouse or family member who just doesn't seem to care as much, or maybe there's a change in their physical grooming. It's okay to say, hey, you know, I've observed this change. Can you tell me what's going on? How are you? And preface it with what you've observed that's leading you to ask the question. If the responses are somewhat non-committal and vague, probe a little bit deeper and let them know that you really are, and give them space. Let them talk, tell you what's going on, because it is risky. Mm-hmm. Even when individuals first go to a therapist or counselor, many times they're afraid to admit just how seriously they are thinking about suicide, afraid that something will happen. And we encourage them, though, that if you're not open with your doctor or therapist or your support person, then they're not really able to help you. So we want to make a safe space for people to talk.
So what if they say it? I'm going to kill myself.
At that point, we want to acknowledge the fact that they've trusted us and that they've had the courage to be so open with us. And then let's explore what we can do to get them help now. It may mean that they do need to be taken to an emergency room for further evaluation to keep them safe while they work through what is it that's happened that's led them to that point that they do want to die by suicide.
So you just call 911? Is that, or you take them to a stress center? Or
you can call 911, but if they're willing to go voluntarily with you, I'd encourage you to take them there. Wait with them through the process until they can be seen by somebody. If they're reluctant to go, though, and you feel their life's a danger, call 911. There's some wonderfully trained officers who are out there who are able to talk to individuals, assess situations, mm-hmm. and if needed, transport them to the hospital for evaluation.
Someone who's going through grief, and we certainly have heard of cases where people have taken their own lives as a result mm-hmm. because they're grieving. And the one thing about grief is there usually is an end to it. I mean, we always miss our parents or whoever it is, but most of us do realize at some point it won't be there anymore. But I can see somebody in the midst of that, or I think of the woman who lost, what, 5 of her family members. I mean, I can't even fathom how that whole incident. But how do you reach someone like that who is grieving?
Grief is a very real factor. It's very individualized. And, one of the things we talk with individuals about, because maybe they feel like they've resolved the grief for now, but 5-10 years later something hits them. And one of the things we talk about is it never fully goes away, but the hole gets smaller. The hole or the void left by that person gets smaller. Again, many individuals who are grieving simply need somebody to acknowledge that, hey, I see that you're still in so much pain. Tell me how you're feeling. Tell me stories about the person. And simply provide space for them to talk. It isn't my comparing my story to that person's story, but giving space for that person to voice their grief, to talk about how life has changed since the person has died. And there are some instances where the person does need more professional help with grieving, that maybe has been so devastating that they're not getting out of bed. They're missing work for weeks on end. At that point, they need some professional help to help them through the grief.
Okay. We opened up the show talking about the 5% of 5%. What was the statistic you told me? 5% of all?
5% have thoughts of suicide annually.
Annually. Okay. And I was just thinking back on my own life. There was a time when I didn't contemplate suicide. I just wanted to die. But I wasn't thinking about doing it. I just thought, this hurts so badly. How can you have so much? How can something hurt physically and it's not even physical? Which was when my dad passed. Well, he was actually brain damaged as a result of a heart attack. So that going through that grief, it was just unbelievable. And I just wished I were not in my body, but I did not think about doing it. But I will say, I can remember my mother when I was about 5, and I was sitting on the bed with her, and she says, "Now you don't ever kill yourself." And so it's funny, like, I think that has kept me over the years, because she trained me at a young age that no matter how bad it gets, you don't do that. So I just wonder sometimes, what if she hadn't said that to me? Did other people's moms or dads say that to them? In a case like that, how much do you think that played a role in terms of keeping someone safe?
Well, Kelly, just your openness to talk about how there have been moments in your own life that you just felt like you just didn't want to be here, you just didn't think you could go through the pain, is a real testimony to so many people that it happens to all of us in our normal life. And there are comments that maybe made something like that as a child, or a faith belief, or something that tells the person, I can't do this, but they still need help to find some way to get through the pain. And so, again, there are still so many stigma and taboos out there of people afraid to openly admit, I've thought about suicide, or I've thought about ending my life. But that openness and being able to talk about it leads to getting the right help, or finding the inner strength in our own internal coping skills to get through what was going on. Sometimes just acknowledging that this is how I feel is such a relief that then the individual is able to say, but I can do this, and this is really important to me. And I know if I go back and talk to my counselor or my doctor, I can get back on track.
Okay. So we've got less than a minute left. If you could talk directly to the camera, and in case there's somebody out there who's watching, and deliver a message to them.
We just hope if you're having thoughts of suicide or in crisis, you or a loved one, that you're willing to pick up the phone and call the crisis line, 317-251-7575. And again, somebody's there to listen to you 24/7, hear your story, and help you through what's going on.
Okay. Amy Smith, Volunteer Crisis Intervention Specialist for Families First. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
And perhaps saving somebody's life out there. We appreciate you coming in. And thank you for watching us here on Inside Indy. I'm Kelly Vaughn. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Welcome back to Inside Indy. I'm Kelly Vaughn. The holidays are here, and you know what that means, that your schedule is about to get packed with hosting duties in your home. Here to help you spend more time celebrating the holidays and less time stressing out in the kitchen is Chef Julie Hartigan. Good morning, Julie.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Julie, how can we party more and stress less?
Exactly. That's the whole idea, right? Enjoying yourself with family and friends, not being stuck in the kitchen and like popping into your own party, paying short little visits. So I've partnered with some really great brands and have excellent shortcuts to share with you that are really going to save you tons of time so you can feel like a guest at your own party too.
Julie, how can we party more and stress less?
So one of my first tips, honestly, for everyone at home, take advantage of technology in the kitchen. If your kitchen is as smart as you are, you can really slash a lot of time and be much more efficient. So LG is unveiling their first Wi-Fi enabled combination double wall oven with cooking speeds 4 times faster than a conventional oven. It works with Innit and Smart Chef cooking technologies, as well as your Google Home and your Alexa that everyone loves. So to make a gorgeous turkey like this one, all you would need to do is connect your LG device to Innit, program in the weight of the turkey, and then follow the prompts, and it's going to send the cooking directions straight to your oven, so you're guaranteed juicy, gorgeous results for way less work. And for more information about this great oven, you can go to lg.com.
Any more tips on time saving?
Oh, for sure. And this one is such a basic one, but I always encourage people to do this. Stock yourself up at the beginning of the holiday season with everything you're going to need for all different entertaining occasions, right? And now soup is such a natural that you're going to want to serve for the holidays. It's so comforting and delicious. And Idaho and Steakhouse soups deliver comfort made easy in just 5 minutes flat. It's got slow-cooked restaurant quality flavor at home. And it's made with real Idaho potatoes, but all you need to do is add water, and creamy, hearty soup is ready to serve to your guests. It's a total crowd pleaser. And it's available in 4 delicious flavors. There's creamy potato, loaded potato, cheddar broccoli, and cheddar potato. So Idaho and Steakhouse soups, you can visit idahoan.com for more information about these. And then pizza. I mean, there are so many different occasions to get together for the holidays, some more casual where you're gathering people together. And Dr. Utker Virtuoso Pizza is the perfect choice for gathering people together. It's made with fresh picked ingredients, so after one bite, you won't even remember that it was ever frozen. It's available in 14 delicious flavors with 2 different crust types, and it takes next to no time to prepare. So I highly recommend keeping some of this on hand for all those different get-togethers, and you can go to virtuosopizza.com to learn more about this great one too. And then finally, I mean, you gotta have some wine and some bubbly and something fun to serve your guests, and people can be a little bit confused about what would pair well with all of these different dishes. So I've got 2 excellent choices for you today from Cavit, from Italy, from wine from Italy. The #1 imported Pinot Noir from Cavit is medium-bodied and smooth finished. It goes so well with turkey and roasted meats in your main dishes. And then the latest addition to the Cavit collection is a gorgeous, bubbly, sparkling Prosecco. It's a little bit fruity and lightly sweet, so it goes so well with things like appetizers and seafood and all of your different party apps. So again, keep yourself stocked up on things like this at the beginning of the holiday season so you're not running out to the store and you're ready to entertain at a moment's notice when guests are over.
Julie, where can we go for more information?
Yeah, for sure. You can check out my website, cookingwjulie.com, and you can also follow me on Instagram at cookingwjulie. I share lots of recipes and entertaining tips there too.
Thank you so much, Chef Julie, for all of those wonderful holiday tips.
You too. Happy holidays. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for watching Inside Indy. I'm Kelly Vaughn. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.